Hello everybody, this is Talos.
And Eltang.
See, we don't know if you guys like Yu-Gi-Oh! Or anything, but we're kind of into Yu-Gi-Oh! We're taking a break from the LP for a little while to do some Yu-Gi-Oh! Videos. We're going to do a deck video today of my personal burn deck.
Maybe we'll show my deck. It's not the best, but...
His is a synchro deck. His was from a starter and everything, but we'll get into that later. Alright, starting off for monsters, we have 2 lava golems. Obviously, for obvious reasons if you know Yu-Gi-Oh! During each of your opponent's standby phases, they take 1,000 damage, and to summon him, you tribute both of their monsters. Two of their monsters on the field, and he gets special summoned to either attack or defense mode.
You can have a max of 5 monsters if you don't know the game.
If you do so, you're not allowed to normal summon or special summon yourself that turn again. So, he's pretty good for burn. I have Vandalgion the Dragon Lord. He can be special summoned when you have when you negate the effect of a spell, trap, or monster. I personally only have him in here for the effect of negating a spell card, because when he negates the spell card, if you have like a Magic Jammer, you do 1,500 points of damage. So pretty good for a burn deck. Next, I have Volcanic Hammerer, because he's a 2400 beat stick, and he can do 200 damage to your opponent per volcanic monster in your graveyard. If you do so, he can't attack.
I just burped.
But I have a lot of volcanics in here. Yeah, Josh, we know. So, he's a pretty good card. Next, we have the Talos, the Firestorm Monarch. When you tribute summon him, you pick a card from your opponent's hand. If it's a monster, your opponent takes damage to their life points equal to the level of the monster. In case you didn't know, level is the stars. And he's a 2400 beat stick as well.
For level 5 and 6, you need 1 sacrifice. For level 7 or higher, it's 2, depending on the card.
We have Volcanic Queen next. She's basically a lava golem. Once per turn, send another card you control to the graveyard to inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent. Or if you don't do that, during the end phase, you have to tribute a monster and take 1,000 damage. So, either way, decent burn card. I run 3 Volcanic Scatter Shots, just because when they're sent to the graveyard, which is very vague, so when they're sent to the graveyard, they do 500 damage to your opponent. Yeah.
And their attack is 500, so you know where it's coming from.
Princess of Tsurugi, I hope I said that right. When she's flipped, so this could include attacking because it's not a flip summon. It doesn't say you need a flip summon. So when she's flipped, it does 500 damage to your opponent for each spell and trap they control. All around, pretty decent. Stray Asmodean, I run 2 of because when he's destroyed and sent to the graveyard, it deals 800 damage to both your opponent and you. It's not all that great, but you'll see why I have him in here. He's a fiend, so you'll see why I have him in here at the end of the monster list. 1 Fire Trooper. I was thinking about running 2, but I think 1 will be fine for now. When he's normal summoned, well, not normal summoned, when its card is summoned.
So special summon, flip summoned, or anything. You
can send it to the graveyard to do 1,000 damage to your opponent. If you already have a monster on your field and you draw him, he's a pretty good card. Volcanic Slicer, really annoying if you have him on the first turn for your opponent. You can do 500 damage to your opponent, but if you do, you can't attack that turn. He has 1,800 attack, so he's also a pretty decent attacker. My Mind Golem, when he goes to the graveyard as a result of battle, 500 damage to your opponent, pretty decent. Solar Flare Dragon, sorry to cut in front of the screen. Solar Flare Dragon, 500 damage every time you say end turn. So if you end your turn and it takes your opponent's turn, they take 500 damage from you ending your turn. So that's pretty good. I have a Sangan in this deck as a searcher because a lot of these are low attack points.
And Sangan's the best.
Sangan is a really good searcher.
No matter what you do to it, if it's in the graveyard, either discarding or something, it's...
Yeah, so you'll see why else he's in here because of a spell card I have. Ultimate Baseball Kid. He gets 1,000 attack for each other fire-type monster on the field, on your side of the field, except him. You can also tribute a fire-type monster you control to do other than him to do 500 damage to your opponent.
So
most of this deck is fire.
14 from what I've seen in this.
I have Spell Striker. You can discard a spell card to the graveyard to special summon him. He can attack directly, and you take no battle damage from battles involving this card. So if he got attacked, you wouldn't take any damage.
Plus, you can resummon if you discard one from your
three of the biggest cards in this deck I have in here just because I can. The 3 Sacred Beasts. A lot of continuous spells. Tribute 3 to get him. Every time he destroys an opponent's monster by battle, 1,000 damage.
Yep.
Every time your opponent summons, you get a token for attributing 3 fiends for him. Tribute 3 continuous traps you control, and get rid of one of your opponent's spell and traps once per turn. Not bad. We're coming up on 6 minutes right here, so I'm going to try to speed this up. We have Meteor of Destruction, does 1,000 damage to your opponent. You can't do it if they have 3,000 or less health. Tremendous Fire, does 1,000 damage to your opponent. I run 2 of these, but it does 500 damage back to you. I run 2 Ukazis. It does 800 damage to your opponent.
Not the best, but I mean, for basic or an advance, it's good.
I run Poison the Old Man because it can either do 800 damage to your opponent or heal you for 1,200. I'd rather have 3 of him in here rather than just 2 other Okazis. Dark Snake Syndrome. First of your standby phases, it does 100 damage, and then each standby phase after that, it multiplies the damage by 2. So you'll eventually be doing thousands of damage per turn. I run 2 Dark Room of Nightmares because every time you do effect damage to your opponent, 300 damage is added onto it.
And if you have both out, it's 600.
Yeah, this deck needs stalling, so I have Nightmare Steel Cage and Swords of Revealing Light. Obvious reasons. Swords of Revealing Light is also a staple. Dark World Lightning. I discard a card from my hand and destroy one of my opponent's face-down cards, so it can be a monster, or spell, or trap. He's in here. It's in here for the Volcanic Scatter Shots and Sandgun. Giant Trunade, staple. Returns all spell and trap cards on the field back to the owner's hand. Doesn't include this card, just to let you know.
By the way, if you play that and it's the second turn or first turn after playing
Dark Snake Syndrome,
Swords of Revealing, or Nightmare Steel
Revealing.
Cage, you get more turns with them.
Yeah, so you get to reuse it. Then we have Wave Motion Cannon. Gains a counter during each standby phase. If you choose to remove the counters from it, the card is destroyed and does 1,000 damage to your opponent per counter on it. There is no max.
So you can pretty much kill.
So you can kill someone if they can't get rid of this soon enough. I'd like to run 3, but I only have 1 currently. So now we move on to the traps. I have 2 Magic Cylinders. Their opponent attacks, you reflect it back at their life points. 2 Magic Jammers. Negates an opponent's spell card. I run 3 Just Desserts. Does 500 damage to my opponent for every monster they control. Really good card. Threatening Roar. It stops my opponent from attacking. It lets their opponents monsters not be able to attack for the turn. I run 1 Nightmare Wheel. Your opponent's monster cannot attack. And they take 500 damage during each of your standby phases. Coffin Seller does extra 300 damage to your opponent each time a monster is sent to their graveyard. I have Backfire. If you want to kill one of my fire monsters, go ahead. You'll take some 500 damage off that. I have Scrap Iron Scarecrow in here for stalling. Your opponent attacks, flip, negate the attack. Mirror Force, staple. Everybody knows what that does.
If you don't, it
negates your opponent's attack and destroys all their attack position monsters. And the last card of the deck is Cyber Shadow Guard. Now,
this is a really good card.
It's a decent card. You activate it during your opponent's main phase, before they enter their battle phase. When they enter their battle phase, when they go to attack, this card becomes it copies their monster. So they have to suicide their monster to this card, or
end their battle phase.
And or end their battle phase. So all around a good card. It goes back to being face down during your turn. This can be destroyed by Mystical Space Typhoon, but if they really want to waste it on this, go ahead, because I got other stuff in this deck that they need to be worried about.
Yeah.
Now that I've shown you all the monsters and spells and traps, that's my burn deck, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any suggestions, I'm still trying to make this deck better. So far, the few times I've played with it, it's worked pretty well. I don't use the Sacred Beast in it all that much, but if I can get him off, especially Haman, he does really good. So, we'll see you guys later.
Bye.